Good Yom Tov.
Good Yom Tov to you too.
Thank you.
Rabbi Rachel, I think maybe I'll start the nigun if you're okay with that. Okay, here we
Go
go.
for it. Thank you.
Okay. Yai lai 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 yai lai 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 yai lai lai ya la lai 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 la 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 lai yai lai 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 yai lai 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 yai lai lai ya la lai 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 la 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 lai ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la la ya la la ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la la ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la la ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la la ya la la ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 la.
Hello, everyone, and Gemar Chatina Tova. May you be written for a good year. It is so nice to see all of your faces. Even though we can't be together in person, it's nice to share a Zoom screen and a spiritual space with all of you. I'm Rabbi Rachel Davidson. I have been a member of this community since I was probably 0, give or take. And it is my joy to be coming back as a recent graduate of the Reconstructionist Rabbinical College. And I'm leaving tonight with our rabbi, Rabbi Steve Segar.
Thank you, Rabbi Rachel, and it is really wonderful to be here with everyone, and it is a joy to be co-leading with you, Rabbi Rachel. I think this is probably the first official time that we're doing this together since your completion of rabbinical school, and it's a special opportunity to feel the power of multiple generations, Lador Vador, taking place in a very concrete way for us. So.
So we'll start with Alan Binstock. If you could please do our first reading for us. It's number 1 on the supplement, The Eagle Poem by Joy Harjo.
I'm sorry, Rachel. Could you have someone else read? I was not prepared.
That's completely fine. I will read this first poem, and Alan, maybe we'll work you in later in the service. So this is The Eagle Poem by Joy Harjo.
Rachel,
To
before
pray,
you-
you open your whole self to sky, to earth, to sun, to moon, to one whole voice that is you, and know there is more that you can't see, can't hear, can't know except in moments, steadily growing and in languages that aren't always sound, but other circles of motion. Like eagle that Sunday morning over Salt River, circled in blue sky, in wind, swept our hearts clean with sacred wings. We see you, see ourselves, and know that we must take the utmost care and kindness in all things. Breathe in, knowing we are made of all this, and breathe, knowing we are truly blessed because we were born and die soon within a true circle of motion, like eagle rounding out the morning inside us. We pray that it will be done in beauty, in beauty. And we'll continue now with sharing the names of those who have lost, who we have lost in the past year, and Rabbi Steve will lead those names. And then Connie Friedman will light a Yizkor candle on behalf of the community.
Thank you, Rabbi Rachel. So over the past year, these are the names of members and the names of the loved ones that they have lost. Connie Friedman lost her mother, Elaine Friedman. Bellamy Prince lost her father-in-law, John Lewis. Sue Peleg lost her stepmother, Florence Abrams. Ernie Logsdon lost his mother, Bertha Logsdon. Greg Selker lost his father, Eugene Selker. Dick Weinberger lost his mother, Ava Weinberger. Jane Kaufman lost her brother, David Kaufman. Kate Weinstock lost her mother, Marie May. Beth Robbins lost her mother, Ned Robbins. And Rachel Kay lost her mother-in-law, Eleanor Moritz.
Thank you, Connie, and thank you, Rabbi Steve. We'll now turn to page 688 in the Machzor. If you're using the PDF instead of the big physical Machzor book, the page numbers at the bottom will still be the same. So page 688. And I would like to invite my mother, Adina Davidson, to light the candles for Chag and read the blessing for us.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'hadlik ner shel Yom HaKippurim. Blessed are you, Eternal One, our God, sovereign of all worlds, who has made us holy with your mitzvot and commanded us to kindle the light of the Day of Atonement.
And Mom/Adina, would you mind also reading the drash under the line on page 687?
Why Day of Atonements, Yom HaKippurim, and not Day of Atonement, Yom Kippur? Here we speak in the plural, despite this being a day of solitude and singularity. I come knowing that I will be asked to confess sins, an intimidating, even frightening prospect. We are strengthened in the task as we realize that those with whom we have come to pray are engaged in the same process. Not for each of us alone is this a day of atonement, but for all of us together, a day of atonements.
Thank you. So throughout this evening, I'll invite you to experience Yom Kippur as a time of our collective atonement and also our collective liberation from that which we have done wrong in the past year as a society. So we'll turn now to page 690 for the blessing over putting on the talit. And if you have a talit with you, I invite you to put it on now if you haven't already. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu v'hitatef batzitzit. And we'll continue on page 694 with Kol Nidre. I invite you to rise, and we will stay risen through the Baruch Hu. So for the next few things, and you're welcome to rise in spirit or in body. And okay, Charlotte Fallick will be the first one singing Kol Nidre, and then I'll read it out loud in English, and anyone who would like to is welcome to join me from home. And then Rabbi Steve will sing in Hebrew.
Hi, everyone. I just wanted to premise this with, unfortunately, I am sick today, so I'm pretty stuffy. So we'll see what comes out, but still, thanks for having me sing. Kol Nidre be'esareh u'shavue b'charame ve'koname ve'chinuse ve'chinuye Dindarna Udishtabana Udea Harimna Sarna Anavshatana Miyom Kippurim she'obar Ad Yom Kippurim zeh Abalenu letova Kulhon icharatna vehon Kulhon yehon sheran Tvikin sheviti Teli numbutali Asheririn velakayamin Nidrana La Nidre Ve'esarana Ve'esare Ushvuatana La Shvuah
All vows, all promises of abstinence and formulas of prohibition and declarations of austerity and oaths which bear a name of God and pledges to ourselves assumed on penalty, whatever we might have sworn and then forgotten, whatever earnest, well-intentioned vows we might have taken up but not upheld, whatever punishment or harm we might unwittingly have called down on ourselves from the last day of atonement to this day of atonement. May the day come upon us for the good, From all of them, we now request release. Let their burden be dissolved and lifted off and canceled and made null and void, bearing no force and no reality. These vows shall not be binding vows, those prohibitions not be binding prohibitions, those oaths shall not be binding oaths.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehecheyanu v'kimanu v'higianu lazaman hazeh.
We'll continue on page 708 for the Baruch Hu, and Rabbi Steve will chant.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Leolam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Leolam Va'ed.
You may be seated or settle back in. We'll continue now with another poem that Greg Selker will be reading. The poem is Rebirth, and it is supplement number 2.
Rebirth by Terry Boyle. Hands holding large yellow leaves, covering a face. Sweeping the leaves out of the drain, I think of change. Even beautiful things die and decay. My head this past year has been clogged with many useless things. Some leaves have started to slip away from me, their deep coloring, journeying to wherever water takes them. I shovel muck and leaf into the bin, and unclean water spills onto my shoes. I am earth. A cluster of many colors lies strewn across the lawn. Death or change is wonderfully sad. Ash, sycamore, deciduous arms shedding memories of past glory. Must follow the course of nature toward change. My soul must divest itself of the yesterdays, the failures, the victories. I must hold up my arms and let the divine spirit strip me of all that is no longer needed, no matter how beautiful or how important, until I am naked before God.
Thank you, Greg. We'll continue now on page 710 at the bottom of the page with Uma'avir Yom.
Uma'avir Yom, Umevi Laila, Umavdil Ben Yom Uvein Laila, Adonai, Tzivaot Shemo, El Chai V'Kayam, Tamid Yimloch Aleinu Leolam Va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai, Ya lai 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 lai, Ya lai 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 lai, Ya lai 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 lai, Hama'ariv Aravim.
We'll continue now on page 712 with Ahavat Olam. In Ahavat Olam, We sing every evening of the year about how God's everlasting love is with us. And on this evening in particular, as we commit ourselves to change, we feel that spirit of love guiding us forward into deeper love for humanity, the earth, each other, and ourselves.
Ahavat olam, Beit Yisrael, Amcha ahavta, Torah umitzvot, Chukim umishpatim, Otanu limadeta, Al ken Adonai, Eloheinu, b'shochbeinu v'kumeinu, nasiach b'chukecha, v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha, uv'mitzvotecha leolam va'ed, ki hem chayenu, ve'orech yameinu, uvahem nege yomam v'layla, V'ahavatecha lo tasur mimenu leolamim. Baruch atah Adonai, Yalai lai 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 lai, Yalai lai lai lai, Yalai lai lai lai, Ohev amo Yisrael.
And we'll continue now on page 714 with Shema, where we focus on the love and oneness that unites all reality.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod, Shem Kevod, Malchuto Leolam Vaed. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha bechol levavcha uvechol nafshecha uvechol meodecha, vehayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi metzavecha hayom al levavecha, vishinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam, b'shivtecha b'veitecha uvelechtecha v'derech uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha, ukshartam leot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot b'neinecha, uchtavtam al mizuzot beitecha uvisharecha.
You're welcome to continue silently for the second and first part of the third paragraphs of the Shema. And I would like to invite Neil Corman to do our next reading. which is on the supplement and is number 3, Ve'ahavta by Aurora Levins Morales.
I'm having trouble finding the supplement right now. Maybe we should just, instead of waiting for me, get somebody else to help me out.
Is there anyone who off the cuff would like to do a reading this evening? Louise Fallick, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Can you hear me? V'ahavta by Aurora Levins Morales. Say these words when you lie down and when you rise up, when you go out and when you return, in times of mourning and in times of joy. Inscribe them on your doorpost, embroider them on your garments, tattoo them on your shoulders. Teach them to your children, your neighbors, your enemies. Recite them in your sleep. Here, in the cruel shadow of empire, another world is possible. Defend the world in which we win as if it were your child. It is your child. Defend it as if it were your lover. It is your lover. When you inhale and when you exhale, breathe the possibility of another world into the 37.2 trillion cells of your body until it shines with hope. Then imagine war. Don't waver. Don't let despair sink its sharp teeth into the throat with which you sing. Escalate your dreams. Make them burn so fiercely that you can follow them down any dark alleyway of history and not lose your way. Make them burn clear as a starry drinking gourd over the grim fog of exhaustion and keep walking. Hold hands, share water, keep imagining so that we and the children of our children's children may live.
Thank you, Louise. And we'll continue on page 722 with the ending of the Shema. We'll need someone to unmute Rabbi.
Thank you. Thank you. Jane, if you can make me co-host, then you won't have to worry about unmuting me anymore. Thank you. Leman tizkeru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'tem kidoshim lelohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem le'Elohim ani Adonai Elohechem Adonai Elohechem emet.
And we'll continue now on page 728 with Mi Chamocha.
Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai Mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh Nora tehilot ose fele Malchutecha ra'u vanecha Bokei yam lifnei Moshe Ze'eli anu v'amru Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed v'ne'emar Kifada Adonai et Yaakov uge'alo miyad chazak mimenu Baruch atah Adonai, Ya lai 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 lai, Ya lai 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 lai, Ya lai 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 lai, Ga'al Yisrael.
And we'll continue on page 730 with Hashkivenu.
Ushmor tzeiteinu, uvoenu, lechayim u'leshalom me'ata v'ad olam, ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha. Baruch atah Adonai, hapore sukat shalom aleinu, ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim.
And we'll continue now on page 734 with Kivayom.
Kivayom hazeh yichaper alechem, litaher etchem mikol chatotechem, mikol chatotechem, lifnei Adonai titaru.
We'll continue now on page 736. I invite you to rise now, and we'll continue in a moment with the Silent Amidah. And as we sang in the last prayer, on this day, we are becoming purified from our chet, from the ways we have missed the mark. And this purity gives us new energy to commit to that which matters most in our lives. So we'll continue on page 736 with the Chatzikash.
Kadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabba V'alma divra chirutei V'yamlich malchutei B'chayechon Uv'yomechon Uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael Bagala Uv'izman kariv V'imru Amen. Yesh mei Rabba mivarach le'alam ul'almei almaya Yitbarach, Yitbarach, V'yishtabach,
is one
Yitba'arit Ramam V'yitnaseh,
doing a piano
Yitadar V'yitalev Yitalal, Shmei Dekudesha Brichu. Leila, Leila, Mikol birchata v'shirata, tush bechata v'nechemata, de'amiran be'alma v'imeru. Amen.
We'll continue now with the Silent Amidah We'll begin by singing Adonai Sefatai Tiftach Ufi Agid Tehilatacha. God, open up my lips and let my mouth declare your praises. So in this Silent Amidah, you're welcome to use the words on the page. You're welcome to use the words in your heart. Whatever you feel like will open your lips to the prayer that is deep within you that needs to come out, or the meditative reflection that you need to do deep within you.
Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi agid tehilatecha. Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi agid tehilatecha. la la la. Ya la 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 la. Ya ya la la la. Ya la ya la 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 la. Ya la la la. Ya la la la. Ya ya la la la. Ya la la la. Ya ya la la la. Ya la ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya ya la la la. Ya la ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya ya la la la. Ya la ya la 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 la. Ya ya la la. Ya la la la. Ya la ya la ya la la. La 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 la. Ya ya la la la. Ya la ya la 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 la. B'sefer Chaim bracha v'shalom u'farnasa tova. Nizacher v'nikatev lefanecha. V'anachnu v'chol amcha beit Yisrael lechaim tovim lechaim tovim uleshalom. So we are now going to proceed with a part of this evening's ritual that we have practiced. It's been our custom ever since we began having High Holy Day services in the early 1990s. It's become an important custom each year at this Kol HaLev service to invite members of our community to share a personal reflection on a theme that broadly relates to the High Holy Day period or to Yom Kippur specifically. On this day, perhaps more than any other holy day in our calendar, it is critical to be able to make a personal connection between the words and themes of our tradition and the lived experience that we know with our own hearts and minds. It is a great blessing for us that we have always had members who are willing to step forward and share some of their thoughts on an aspect of the High Holy Day period that engages them in either a challenging or an inspiring way. These words help us all to put our own lives into better perspective and to more deeply connect with the transformational promise of this time of year. This year, in recognition of the challenging environment in which we once again find ourselves, we've invited one Kol HaLev member rather than the usual two to reflect through the prism of his own experience on the theme of Torah from his life. The term Torah can be seen both as the specifically Jewish framework for the pursuit of wisdom and holiness in our lives, but also as a Jewish designation for wisdom in general in the world at large. So speaking about the Torah of one's life could involve a person's unfolding relationship to Jewish tradition, or it could be seen as the wisdom one has gleaned through all of one's life experience, or some combination of the two. As is our custom, I have left it up to this evening's speaker to decide which of these directions he prefers to take. I'm pleased now to invite Erwin Weinberger to share some of his reflections on any of these questions. Erwin.
Thank you. So nice to be here. And can everybody hear me okay? Yeah? Okay, good. First of all, I want to acknowledge that I want to dedicate this evening's talk to the memory of my dear parents, Herman and Irene Weinberger, and also to my sister, Sarah Weinberger, who's joining with us this evening on Zoom and from Massachusetts. Sarah writes a column for the Northampton Gazette on human rights and is a brilliant writer, unlike me. So the title of this talk today, I want to get myself off of this so I don't have to stare at me while I'm doing this. It is nice to be able to do a talk from the comfort of my own home, but the last time I gave a speech was probably about 20 years ago. Asked me to sing a 4-hour concert and I'd have no problems. But the title of this talk is A Musical Path to Judaism. Sitting with the congregation on that September day of Rosh Hashanah, 1964, my 10-year-old self felt at home and alive. Our little shul on the lake, Lake Erie that is, was called Temple Ner Tamid and was also referred to as the Euclid Jewish Center. It was my respite from the greater Christian community of Euclid and a place where I felt that I belonged. You see, my parents were immigrants who settled in Cleveland after surviving the horrors of the Holocaust. Their broken lives and their memories found healing within the rituals and the celebrations of our synagogue. The cantor's silvery voice suddenly caught my ear. I joined in on the melody of Avinu Malkeinu, our Father, our King, please hear our prayer. But rising above the voice of our cantor was my father's voice. My dad had the loudest voice and what I think was the loveliest voice in the congregation. At services, you could always hear his tenor rise above the singing of all the other congregants. I listened attentively, and I tried my best to blend my voice with his. Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu. The sound lifted me into a spirit of triumph and of renewal. Throughout my life, when I would sing this prayer, I would still sometimes hear my dad's voice singing with compassion and with feeling right in my ear. What a comfort. Now, my bar mitzvah gave me the first opportunity to sing before the congregation. I spent many weeks learning the Torah portion and blessings, and I began to gain confidence in my abilities to chant from Torah and to sing the blessings. Looking back, I can now reflect on how much this must have meant to both my mother and father. You see, the losses of their families and loved ones in the war all but obliterated their ability to observe the rituals and the commandments of Judaism. But hearing me chant, that must have given them hope that their lives were not lived in vain and that the legacy of their ancestors could still live on despite their horrid past. 8 years later, in the summer of 1972, I was given the opportunity to spend the summer in Israel. I spent the first half of this experience picking pears on Kibbutz Gazi in the Jezreel Valley, followed by touring the historic sites and visiting some of my relatives who managed to escape the war. My first spiritual experience happened during my stay on the kibbutz one morning. I woke early. I caught a bus to the trailhead of Mount Tabor. It was only about 20 minutes from the kibbutz. This small but very beautiful mountain was a strategic site in the Old Testament where wars were fought and beacons lit to inform villages of the beginning and the end of the high holy days. It was a hot and a very sunny day. By the time I reached the summit of the mountain, I was thirsty, my energy was spent, and at the peak of the mountain lies this Franciscan monastery. Upon entering the monastery, one of the monks kindly offered me a drink of water. As I stepped out of the church, feeling refreshed, I was struck by this amazing 360-degree view of the area. As I gazed out over the Jezreel Valley, I viewed the Sumerian mountains, the Sea of Galilee, and even Mount Hermon at the Lebanese border to the north. In that moment, I was overcome by a feeling of calmness, and a deep peace flooded my body. Although I wasn't searching for it, I now believe that I encountered God on that day. 10 years later, I transformed this experience into an original song I call Mount Tabor. And I'm going to sing a little bit of it for you right now. On a twisted path in the morning light, I climbed till my feet were sore. As the sun rose high in the clear blue sky, it revealed a light on Mount Tabor. Mount Tabor, nestled in the valley of the Lord. Mount Tabor, sing it to the rivers and the shore. A song for you, O Mount Tabor. To the south lay the mountains of Sumeria. To the west, the hills of Carmel. I stood in the hall of the basilica, alive with the tolling of the bells. Mount Tabor, nestled in the valley of the Lord. Mount Tabor, sing it to the rivers and the shore. A song for you, O Mount Tabor. As I look back on my life, I see this thread of Jewish music weaving a fair, hold on, I got to get a drink of water. Look, I am. As I look back on my life, I see the thread of Jewish music weaving a fabric of spirit, community, and harmony into my Jewish identity. For 6 years, I served as a cantorial soloist, both at Temple Ner Tamid and at Beth Shalom in Hudson. At the age of 24, I began actively learning Yiddish and Hebrew songs so that I could perform at senior centers and Jewish groups in the Cleveland Jewish community. This led to becoming a member of the Yiddish Cup klezmer band, where I sang and played a variety of musical instruments. It was so gratifying since it gave me the feeling of sharing this rich body of Jewish music at simchas and concerts throughout the United States. I feel as though I'm a small link in the chain of Jewish music. In some way, I hope that I've continued the beautiful traditions of my parents in a way that has served this community of Kol HaLev. Hearing the beautiful sounds of Brian Miller's shofar this high holiday season reminds me of the meaning and the spirit that can be found in a single musical note. The sound of the shofar awakens us to a greater purpose. I can hear it in my soul and in the still, small voice in my heart that says, all will be well. I'd like to close now with a song I simply call a prayer to music. May the song of life bring happiness. La, 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 la. You can sing that with me. May the song of life bring happiness. La, 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 la. May the music of God bring peace. May the music of God bring peace. Lie, 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 lie. May the music of God bring peace. Lie, 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 lie. Wherever we are, wherever we turn, lie, 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 lie. The sound of the shofar will lead us to love. Lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Erwin. Ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la la la. As they say, things that come from the heart go into the heart, and what you just shared was so deeply heartfelt and received in all of our hearts. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm going to turn back to Rabbi Rachel.
We'll now continue our service with a poem, A Prayer for Change, which is number 4 on the supplement, and Nancy Rubel will be reading that.
Prayer for Change by Kathy Cohen. Black woman with afro staring up and over her shoulder, bare tree in the background. The sky is so wide without boundary. We try but gaze through a narrow lens. Bird's eye, human eye, view from the window of a plane. God, without boundary, please widen our gaze. When faced with change, night into day or day into night, please let us meet transition without fear. Let moments of change lift us into possibility. Please wrap us in your limitless presence.
Thank you, Nancy. And we'll continue now with Aurelia Pels Major leading us in Kihine HaChomer on page 801. And we're just going to be doing the first 2 stanzas of this supplement or
Open.
of this prayer.
Yeah, go ahead. Kihine HaChomer Be'yara Yatzer B'risoto Marhiv
וברצותו מקטר. כן אנחנו בידך, חסד נוצר, חסד נוצר. לבריחה ות, באל תפן, ליצר. כי הנה כהיבן ביד את מסתת, ברצותו חסד וברצותו מקטר. כן אנחנו בידך, מחיי וממוטט. לבריחה בית, באל תפן, ליצר.
Thank you so much, Aurelia.
You're welcome.
And we'll continue now on page 812 with the beginning of our slichot, and I invite you to rise in spirit or body. And in this, we quote from the Tanakh, where we read about God's attributes of chesed, of loving kindness. And we welcome that spirit of chesed, of loving kindness, into our hearts as we take an honest look at our past years and a hopeful look towards the future.
Adonai, Adonai, El Rachum Vechanun, Erech Apayim, V'rav Chesed V'emet, Notzer Chesed La'alafim, Nosei Avon V'afesha, V'chata v'nakeh. Adonai, Adonai, God loving and gracious, patient and abundant in kindness and truth, keeping kindness for 1,000 ages, forgiving sin and rebellion, and transgression making pure. Adonai, Adonai, El Rachum Vechanun, Erech Apayim, V'rav Chesed V'emet, Notzer Chesed La'alafim, Nosei Avon V'afesha, V'chata v'nakeh.
And we will stay risen on page 814 with Shema Kolenu.
Shema Kolenu, Adonai Eloheinu, Chus v'rachem aleinu, v'kabel b'rachamim u'ratzon, et tefilatenu. Hashivenu Adonai elecha, v'nashuva, Chadesh yameinu, kekedem. Al tashlichenu milfanecha, v'ruach kodshecha al tikach mimenu. Al tashlichenu li'et zikna, kichlot kochenu al ta'azvenu. Al ta'azvenu Adonai Eloheinu, al tirchak mimenu.
Thank you, Rabbi Steve. You're welcome to be seated or settle back in now as we continue on page 816 in the middle of the page with Anu Amecha. This is a song that talks about how we are God's people in various different ways. And to me, this is a call that says, if we belong to God, to that which is most holy in this world, then we are called to do that which is most sacred in our abilities. We are called to do what is most within our power to help others and to help ourselves.
Yai lai, yai lai lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai, yai lai lai, yai lai, yai lai 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 lai, ki anu amecha ve'ata Eloheinu. Anu vanecha ve'ata avinu. Anu avadecha ve'ata Adonenu. Anu kehalecha ve'ata chelkenu. Anu nachlatecha ve'ata goralenu. Anu tzonecha ve'ata ro'enu. Anu charmecha ve'ata notrenu. Anu peulatecha ve'ata yotzrenu. Anu rayatecha ve'ata dodenu. Anu segulatecha ve'ata krovenu. Anu amecha ve'ata malkeinu. Anu mamirecha ve'ata mamirenu.
We'll continue now on page 820 with the Vidui Ashamnu. And I invite you to rise in spirit and body for the next few prayers. It's traditional to tap your chest as you say the Ashamnu. And as I framed it in the beginning, I invite you to think about the ways that we as a collective may have missed the mark in the past year, and how we as individuals might influence the collective to greater justice and kindness in the coming year.
Thank you, Rabbi Rachel. I just also want to welcome Rachel Williams, who will be helping us out musically with this prayer as well. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, Ashamnu.
Ashamnu.
Bagadnu.
Bagadnu.
Gazalnu.
Gazalnu.
Tibarnu dofi.
Barnu dofi.
Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, Hevinu.
Havinu.
Vehirshanu.
V'hirshanu,
Zadnu,
Zadnu,
Chamasnu,
Hamasnu,
Tafalnu Shaker.
Afanu Shaker.
Ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la ya la 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 ya atznu
Ya Atznu
hizavnu
Yizavnu,
latznu
Latnu,
maradnu
Maranu,
niatznu
Niatznu,
sararnu
Saranu,
avinu
Avinu,
pashanu
Pashanu,
sararnu
Saranu,
kishinu oref
Yishinu Oraf.
ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 Rashanu
Rashanu,
Shichatnu
Shichatnu,
Tiavnu
Diavnu,
Ta'inu
Ta'inu,
Titanu
Titanu,
Ya la 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 la.
And Rachel, would you mind reading the English for us as well?
Absolutely not. For the wrong that we have done before you in the closing of the heart, and for the wrong that we have done before you without knowing what we do, for the wrong that we have done before you, whether open or concealed, and for the wrong that we have done before you knowingly and by deceit, for the wrong that we have done before you through the prompting of the heart, and for the wrong that we have done before you through the influence of others, for the wrong that we have done before you, whether by intention or mistake, and for the wrong that we have done before you by the hand of violence, for the wrong that we have done before you through our foolishness of speech, and for the wrong that we have done before you through an evil inclination. And for them all, God of forgiveness, please forgive us, pardon us, help us atone.
Thank you, Rachel.
No, it's okay. Do you want me to finish? For the wrong that we have done before you in the palming of a bribe, and for the wrong that we have done before you by expressions of contempt, for the wrong that we have done before you through music or through misuse of food and drink, and for the wrong that we have done before you by our avarice and greed, for the wrong that we have done before you through offensive gaze, and for the wrong that we have done before you through a condescending glance. And for them all, God of forgiveness, please forgive us, pardon us, help us atone.
Thank you, Rachel. We'll continue now on page 827 and 828 with the aHigh prayer. And I invite you to stay risen in spirit or in body.
החטא שחטאנו לפניך באימוץ הלב, ועל חטא שחטאנו לפניך בבלי דעת. על חטא שחטאנו לפניך בגלוי ובסתר, ועל חטא שחטאנו לפניך, בדעת ובמרמה. על חטא שחטאנו לפניך בהרהור הלב, ועל חטא שחטאנו לפניך בוועידת זנות. על חטא שחטאנו לפניך בזדון ובשגגה, ועל חטא שחטאנו לפניך בחוזק יד. על חטא שחטאנו לפניך בטיפשות פה, ועל חטא שחטאנו לפניך ביצר הרע. ועל כולם אלוה סליחות, סלח לנו, מחל לנו, כפר לנו. ועל כולם אלוה סליחות, סלח לנו, מחל לנו, סלח לנו, מחל לנו, כפר לנו.
We'll continue now with a poem from the supplement, and you're welcome to sit down or settle back in. So we'll continue with the poem Seek on the supplement, which is number 5. Woman wearing patterned cape, walking in wilderness. When young, I couldn't reach you through language. I felt distant from your prayer book names, steeped in punishment, in law and judgment. Instead, I sought you in the quiet of the sanctuary, in chanting, in families shoulder to shoulder. I saw you in vowels, in silent pause between words, in breath. aHigh asher aHigh shimmers with the possible. aHigh asher aHigh, surround of openness, forgiveness. Here, a sense of your essence. We'll continue with the Misha Berach for healing, which is number 6 on the supplement. You're welcome to type names into the chat. Usually during Yom Kippur, when we're in person, we would invite people to rise. That doesn't work so well over Zoom, to rise if you're thinking of someone who needs healing. So we invite you to put a name into the chat, and you're also welcome to raise your hand using the reactions button, or you can raise your hand physically so that we can see who is in need of healing or thinking of someone in need of healing.
As people are typing names into the chat, invite all of us to just pay attention to those who are putting themselves forward for healing. Either through typing names or through raising of hands electronically or physically. And I invite you to join me from your muted space as we send prayers for strength and healing out to everyone whose name appeared on our screen this evening, who is putting themselves forward for healing in any way explicitly, or those whom we're carrying in our hearts and we may not have chosen to share explicitly. Mi shebeirach avotenu mekor habracha limotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mi shebeirach imotenu Mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
We'll continue on page 452 with Avinu Malkeinu, and I invite you to rise in spirit or in body.
Avinu Malkeinu, Chonenu Vanenu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chonenu Vanenu, Ki ein banu masim. Aseh imanu tzedakah v'chesed. Aseh imanu tzedakah v'chesed ve'hoshienu. Avinu Malkeinu, we have done wrong in your presence. Avinu Malkeinu, we have no one to rule over us but you. Avinu Malkeinu, help us for the honor of your name. Avinu Malkeinu, renew for us a good year. Avinu Malkeinu, nullify the plans of any who may seek to do us harm. Avinu Malkeinu, grant forgiveness and atonement for all of our transgressions. Avinu Malkeinu, help us to return wholeheartedly into your presence. Avinu Malkeinu, send thorough healing to all those who wail. Avinu Malkeinu, Chonenu Vanenu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chonenu Vanenu, Ki ein banu masim. Aseh imanu tzedakah v'chesed. Aseh imanu tzedakah v'chesed ve'hoshienu. Avinu Malkeinu, inscribe us for good fortune in the book of life. Avinu Malkeinu. Inscribe us in the book of redemption and salvation. Avinu Malkeinu. Inscribe us in the book of sustenance and livelihood. Avinu Malkeinu. Inscribe us in the book of merit. Avinu Malkeinu. Inscribe us in the book of forgiveness and atonement. Avinu Malkeinu. Let grow for us the tree of imminent redemption. Avinu Malkeinu. Remember us though we are made of dust. Avinu Malkeinu. Be merciful to us and to all of our offspring. Avinu Malkeinu. Act in memory of all those who have been killed while honoring your name. Avinu Malkeinu. Act in honor of your great and mighty, awe-inspiring name, which has been called out over us for our protection. Avinu Malkeinu. Chonenu va'anenu. Avinu Malkeinu. Chonenu va'anenu. Ki ein banu masim. Aseh imanu tzedaka v'chesed. Aseh imanu tzedaka v'chesed ve'hoshienu.
We'll continue now on page 1202 near the back of the Siddur. And we'll continue it with Aleinu. We'll sing the first two sections together, and then we'll read the middle silently and come back together at the end on page 1206.
Okay. Aleinu leshabeach ladon hakol, latet gedula liotzer breshit, shenatan lanu torat emet, v'chaye olam nata betochenu. Va'anachnu korim umishtachavim umodim lifnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu. Kakatuv betoratecha, Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed, v'ne'emar, v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz, bayom hahu, Yeh Adonai echad, Ushemo echad, Ushemo echad.
You're welcome to be seated or settle back in. We'll continue with a reading, number 7 on the supplement. And Audrey, would you please read for us?
Yes, I will. Everything is beautiful, and I am so sad. This is how the heart makes a duet of wonder and grief. The light spraying through the lace of the fern is as delicate as the fibers of memory forming their web around the knot in my throat. The breeze makes the birds move from branch to branch as this ache makes me look for those I've lost in the next room, in the next song, in the laugh of the next stranger. In the very center, under it all, what we have that no one can take away, and all that we've lost face each other. It is there that I'm adrift, feeling punctured by a holiness that exists inside everything. I am so sad, and everything is beautiful.
Thank you, Audrey. We'll continue now with the Mourner's Kaddish. I would invite people who are remembering someone today, if you're observing a yahrzeit, an anniversary, or if you're in a period of mourning, you're welcome to put the person's name into the chat. And then Rabbi Steve will read the names out loud and we'll chant the Kaddish on page 1216.
The father of Robin Holtzman, Bob Holtzman. Gotta scroll back here. Sorry. Okay. Arthur Krasilovsky is observing for Harvey Kraslin and Joan Bettman. Greg Selker is observing for his father, Eugene Selker. Esther Millis is reciting for Rhonda Averbach. Jean Miller is reciting for her aunt, Madge Hauser. Sue Wolpert is reciting for Gloria Brightfield, Ray's sister. And there's a better way to do this. Connie is reciting for her mother, Leah Bat Bela Menashe. Robin Novick is reciting for Annette Comito. Sue Wolpert is reciting for her own father. Nancy Hecht is reciting for her grandmother, Ida Golden. I think that, is that everyone? I think that's everyone who typed in the chat. So we invite those of you who are reciting Kaddish to unmute if you wish to recite it together. And we join on page 1216. Yit Gadal v'yit Kadash Mei Rabbah v'alma divra chirute v'amlich malchute v'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chaye dechol beit Yisrael v'agala v'zman kariv v'imru Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah mevarach la'am la'almei almaya. Yitbarach v'yitztabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yitpal Shmei Dekusha Barichu Le'ela Le'ela Kol Birchata v'Shirata Tushbechata v'Ne'amata Da'amiran Bi'alma v'Imru Amen. Yehei Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav u'ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru Amen. May the one who makes peace in the heavens make peace for us, for all Israel, and for all who dwell on earth. And let us say, Amen.
So you're welcome to be seated or settle in. I think most of us think of our loved ones who have lost, even if we're not observing a yard site or are not in a period of mourning during the holidays. So I think this is always a good time to remember those people we carry with us. We'll continue now at the conclusion of our service with some greetings from Lila Hanft, I believe.
Hello. Hi. Sorry, I'm looking at the spotlighting and a little confused. So welcome to people who are joining us on live stream and people who are here with us on Zoom. Guests and members, we have a lot of people here tonight and a lot of people to thank. First of all, thanks to Rabbi Rachel, I love saying that, Rabbi Rachel, and Rabbi Steve for leading this beautiful service. And a special thanks to our Zoom hosts, who were our beleaguered Zoom hosts, Jane Arnott-Logsden, Audrey Warner, and Rachel Williams. You know, we're all volunteers, but all the volunteers are getting double their salary tonight. There's also, I also want to thank our soloist, Charlotte Fallick, and all the people who did readings and singing, that the many voices really make this a rich experience. And then there's a few people I want to mention who are busy behind the scenes with last minute details. Connie Friedman, who's the RPC chair, Robin Holtzman, who's a Zoom host coordinator, Rachel Williams, who's president-elect and VP of information, and Hallie Barnett, the immediate past president, who's been helping me provide last-minute customer support to members who have misplaced their Zoom links. And of course, Robin Novick and Rabbi Steve for inspiring us to keep going through all the snafus. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lila.
Thank you, Lila. And thank you so much to everyone who made this service happen. When we were in person, we had a tradition that people would stand up if they helped contribute to this service in any way. And in fact, I think everyone in this room, even if you just came today, thank you so much for bringing yourself. And if you did work in advance, thank you for making all of this happen. We'll conclude with Achat Sha'alti on page 1218 in the Segar.
Thank you, Rabbi Rachel. I also just want to specifically lift up Erwin Weinberger, who really enriched the service this evening with a piece of his life story, his spiritual journey. So I add my thanks to everybody who. It is a village. This is a village project. Anything is a village project in our community, and this is that, times 10. So. Achat sha'alti meit Adonai ota avakesh. Achat sha'alti meit Adonai ota avakesh. Shifti Bevet Adonai kol yemei chayai yai lai lai lachazot benoam Adonai ulevaker behechalo lachazot benoam Adonai ulevaker behechalo. We pick up tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. for those who want to join us for the traditional morning service. And we have programming all the way through the day. which is, I'm sure everyone has looked at already, so we don't have to walk through it. But we'll be back at 9, and wishing everyone a good and a healthy and a restful night tonight, and look forward to seeing many of you tomorrow too. Thank you. Good Yontif, Shana Tova, and a fruitful fast to everybody. Good night.